From the International Society of Analytical Trilogy in Sao Paulo, Brazil, this is Healing Through Consciousness. You know, we live in a world that's been hard to make sense of. And our media doesn't help very much. They string together story after story, day in and day out, with the enormous bias towards disaster and trouble, without giving us any connecting thread, no way to fit the pieces together. We're cast adrift on a sea of opinion and punditry and blatant spin. And we throw up our hands in despair and order another round and turn to the baseball stats because that we can make sense of. Well, all that starts changing today. I'm Richard Lloyd Jones, and I'm with Claudia Bernhardt Pacheco, the Vice President of the International Society of Analytical Trilogy, Dr. Keppe's extraordinary scientific organization in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I say organization specifically because it is a real going concern, which we'll be telling you more about in a few minutes. And also taking your calls today, which is very exciting for us, our first time doing this. In my experience here in Brazil, my first time ever doing this with this great science of Dr. Keppe. You know, I'm faced, as always, when I'm talking about Dr. Norberto Keppe's work with the profound challenge of trying to encapsulate this sweeping body of work in any efficient way that does justice to it, because, believe me, this work is extremely expansive. I've been studying here for going on 8 years, and I feel like I'm starting to scratch the surface. I have friends who've been studying it with Dr. Keppe for 20 years. They tell me they are starting to understand, too. Maybe that's an ongoing process. You know, Shakespeare talked about the tangled web of human machinations and the lack of a through line, a means to analyze ourselves and our society, has been noticeably absent. We can't untangle that web of human machinations. Well, this is exactly where Norberto Keppe's work comes in. What Keppe has done is essentially complete the map of the human psyche. After that promising start by Freud and the early German, psychology got a little off track by a number of more superficial treatments like behaviorism and some of the numerous talk therapies that are so popular in the United States and Canada and our North American culture, the more esoteric methods that are used there today. Or psychology got lost in the Siberia of psychotropic drugs that poses for psychiatric treatment today. Keppe actually has connected the dots and given us both an enormous insight into how we are and how our society is, but also extraordinarily, he's discovered approaches to treating our human psychological lives. Claudia Pacheco is with me today, and Claudia is much more equipped than I am to talk about Keppe's work, but I want to just introduce her a little bit because I think it's important that you know who she is. If you've been listening to my podcast, Thinking with Somebody Else's Head, for the last year and a half or so, you'll know her voice very well because she's a very frequent contributor to that podcast and always has a way of taking a subject and then drawing a bigger circle so we understand more deeply what it is that's happening inside human beings. Claudia is the Vice President of Norberto Keppe's International Society of Analytical Trilogy. She's the President of the Stop the Destruction of the World Association. I'll be giving you websites about those things as we go through the program today, and is very actively involved, very closely involved, working with Dr. Keppe on a day-by-day basis. She's also, in her own right, a very well-respected and published author. She sees clients from all over the world today in psychoanalysis, and really is a perfect person to have to do this program with. So, Claudia, welcome. Our first program.
Oh, thank you, Richard. I feel overwhelmed today because I understand that we have a very important contribution to give to our listeners. And but on the other hand, I would like to deserve the chance to be invited by you and have you as a host for this show. You are an incredible professional in communications, and I'm very proud of being here. And I welcome all the people that are in, like tuning our radio show today and encouraging you to participate in this show where we are not wanting to hide problems, mistakes. We could call this the true, real show, or show of the reality, or reality show.
Yeah, true reality show, man.
Yeah, true reality show, where we could say that you are invited to join us and speak freely and openly, as if you were lying down on a couch, and I was here listening to you. And when you speak openly and freely without censorship about the questions that you have always had, and maybe you never had any courage to talk to anyone about them, or to go to a psychoanalyst because you are afraid to undergo a long treatment, even without knowing the results of this treatment. So being insecure, you have a chance now to do this and give us a chance also to help you, because I'm sure, Richard, and in this sense you are right, biological science or integral psychoanalysis is a real good instrument to help mankind and human beings in all countries.
You know, I came here, Claudia, almost 8 years ago now. I came for 6 months. But almost 8 years, I obviously stayed a long time. And I was very impressed from the very beginning by how Dr. Keppe saw the human being, how he understood not just the psyche of the human being, but the society that the human being lives in. This is something we'll explore much more in this program as the program progresses, and as people call with their questions and answers. It's an extremely useful understanding for us to have, because I feel people are lost somehow, Claudia. People are, they look around, they see the financial crisis that's happening, they see problems in their relationships, they see increasing rates of depression, they see all of these quote-unquote terrible things happening around them, and they don't know how to understand it. It's one thing on top of another.
We are in a dead-end kind of situation in humanity and civilization, Richard, where all institutions are falling apart, where all the theories are also being challenged. We used to respect some authorities in society that now we see that, well, they don't deserve as much respect as we thought before. So I think that Freud inaugurated a new era in civilization when he started the science of psychoanalysis. He brought the concept that we are not really what we show or what we appear to be in society. We are in true another creatures. We have thoughts, feelings, intentions, desires hidden. Sometimes even we don't have any idea about them. And the scientific proof that Freud brought about this kind of hidden self or unconscious life in ourselves were the slips, not only the slip of tongue, but also all slips, dreams. Hypnosis was one of the scientific tools to understand we had an unconscious behavior, an unconscious life in us. But then all this hope that he brought was drastically and very painfully shown to be not the right answer. Because after 40 or 50 years of psychoanalysis and its influence in the world, we just saw problems increasing. Depression, drugs, divorces, injustice, social injustice,